Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another live action versus animated video. I decided to release this video at this exact timing because tomorrow, November 22nd, is the anniversary of Beauty and the Beast, which is obviously the movie I'm going to be talking about in this video. And I have a lot of things to say about this movie and comparing it to the live action. So before we get into that and all of my things I have to say, because this might be a long video, before we get into that, let me roll my disclaimer. So before we begin, let me just give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer as to all these videos that I will come up with, as well as tell you guys the template that I will be following for these videos and how I will kind of film all of them. My little disclaimer, a lot of the original Disney movies were based on fairy tales, and obviously Disney does not own these fairy tales, so many other studios have come out with their own rendition of fairy tales. We've had how many versions of Snow White over the years. In these videos, I will only be discussing the Disney versions because obviously that is what I love. I love Disney movies, and that's what I collect. I enjoy watching them very much. I will only be comparing the Disney animated to the Disney live action movies. I also will not be covering any sequels or anything because, for example, there is an animated sequel of 101 Dalmatians. There's also a live action sequel to the 101 Dalmatians, and those two sequels don't follow each other. So I will not be looking at sequels or anything like that, just straight one movie was an animated and now it's a live action. With that also being said, I will not be doing any movies that are based on, say, the villain of these movies. So for example, Maleficent and Cruella, those movies are based around Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians, but they don't follow the same story that was originally put out. They are more based on the villain of the story. So I will not be using those movies as my basis for these videos. And then my template that I'm going to be following for each of these videos is I'm going to tell you of the years that both of these movies came out, both the animated and the live action. I'm going to give you guys my ranking of the animated and live action, and then I'm going to tell you things I think the live action did better, and then things I think the live action did worse, and then just give you my overall thoughts on both films and how I think they kind of compare to one another. Okay, so right off the bat, I just have to say that I am probably going to be way more judgmental on this live action than I have been on others, and that I will be in the future with other movies that I haven't done yet. And that is because the animated Beauty and the Beast, if you didn't know already from watching my channel, the animated Beauty and the Beast is my all-time favorite movie. I literally can quote the entire movie. It's kind of sad. It's been my favorite movie for pretty much my whole life. I don't remember a time it wasn't my favorite movie. Like, I have a lot of movies that I absolutely love, and this movie has just always stuck as my favorite movie ever. Even as much as I love Star Wars, Beauty and the Beast is still just my favorite movie. So even though I did really like the live action and I have very many positive things to say about it, I do have a lot of comments about it, and it's probably just because the animated does mean so much to me. For example, there's a lot of like teeny tiny moments and scenes in the live action that they did different that I just don't love in comparison to the animated. And for probably any other live action to animated movie comparison I will do, I won't be as nitpicky, and I won't like pick out such minuscule scenes to compare to one another. But for something that is literally my favorite movie ever, I just can't help myself and just compare the heck out of literally every beat for beat moment of these two movies. Just to also prove my point how much I love the animated movie, for all the movies I've done so far, I've rewatched both the animated and the live action to compare, and I write notes as I go through them. I did not need to rewatch the animated one because I know that movie. I know it very well. I did end up rewatching a portion of the animated movie, but solely because one particular scene in the live action, although it's good, it just, the animated is just so much better. So I just had to go back and rewatch that particular scene because I just love it so much. So let's dive in right off the bat. The animated one came out in 1991. Like I said, the anniversary is tomorrow. It came out November 22nd, 1991. Happy anniversary to Beauty and the Beast. And then the live action came out in 2017. So beginning into my template I have for all of these videos, we're going to start off with things I think the live action did do better slash well. I can't really say that I think anything it did was better because, again, I just love the animated so much, but what I think it did well. I wouldn't say that this makes the live action better than the animated, but I will say this film had by far some of my favorite casting out of any Disney live action. The biggest one being, I absolutely loved Luke Evans as Gaston. I could not have picked a better Gaston if I tried. The moment that was announced, I was like, yes, that is the most perfect casting for Gaston, and Luke Evans knocked it out of the park. Also, speaking of casting, I was a little hesitant when I heard that Josh Gad was going to be playing LeFou, but I will give Josh Gad some props here. I like that Josh Gad gave him more of a personality other than just being Gaston's sidekick slash punching bag. I really liked seeing that LeFou was questioning Gaston's actions. We see that throughout the whole film, but I think one of the main things is the mob song. He actually gets his own line in that song where he's very much questioning what Gaston is doing. And we see, like I said, we see that throughout the film. We see that with what Gaston does to Maurice. We see that LeFou is very against that, but then he also is just Gaston is my bro and I can't defy him. So I do like that we got a more of a personality to LeFou in this movie. He still is obsessed with Gaston and looks up to him probably in a very unhealthy way, but we do see him questioning Gaston, which I kind of like. So I feel one of the main complaints of the animated film gets is the plot hole of how did the villagers not realize that there was a castle just a horse ride away from them. So in the live action, they do give us a little bit of an explanation telling us that the enchantress, when she cursed the beast and the castle, she also erased all the villagers' memories of the prince and the castle. And it's very clear to see from the opening song that these villagers are very stuck in their ways, so much so that they think it's ridiculous that Belle reads. So it's really not hard to believe that they wouldn't want to leave this village for any reason to venture beyond or anything. One thing I am really enjoying, not only with Beauty and the Beast, but with some other Disney live actions, is that the kind of side love interest, not necessarily the side love interest because it is the main love interest, but just the lesser of the two of the main couple is getting their own love song, not even love song, but just song or a ballad of sorts. The main examples being, I think these are actually the only examples currently. Did Snow White have one? I don't think so. In Aladdin, Princess Jasmine got Speechless. In The Little Mermaid, Eric sang Wild Uncharted Waters. And then in this movie, we got the Beast song, which is Evermore, which is just performed incredibly by Dan Stevens. I will admit I have not watched a single episode of Downton Abbey, so I did not know who Dan Stevens was when this movie first came out, and I don't know if he has sung before, but dang, he can sing. I was thoroughly impressed. And then obviously one ginormous thing is just the costumes and the production design are just beautiful in this movie, absolutely incredible. I will say I think Belle's dress is a little less extravagant, her yellow dress is a little less extravagant than I was kind of hoping for, but otherwise the costumes and the designs of the castle and the village and obviously all the animated characters and stuff, the wardrobe, Mrs. Potts, Lumiere, Cogsworth. It is incredible how well they are done. So now let's get into things I didn't like about the live action in comparison to the animated. And again, I'm just going to preface this with, I know that these are probably going to sound ridiculously nitpicky. I am well aware of that, but you have to understand that this is my favorite movie of all time, and I just can't help but break it down piece by piece and love minuscule moments of the animated film that we did not get in the live action. Let's begin. So like I said, there are several little moments or just things that are said that I absolutely loved in the animated that they did not have or do in the live action. I have many examples. Let's get into it. I'm so sad they didn't include the scene of Gaston going to propose to Belle. This is probably like the lesser of the scenes because a lot of the other scenes just like mean so much to like the plot and to me. But this one is just like a hilarious scene where Gaston goes to propose and he's like, "Thank you all for coming to my wedding. Now I gotta go propose." I love that scene, but it also is very important in really showing us Gaston's infatuation with Belle, and it also really emphasizes just why he is so angry and becomes so jealous when Belle has any inkling of a romantic connection to anyone else. So it is a funny scene, but I do think it's really important to Gaston's character to really emphasize not only like I said, his infatuation with her, but the fact that it isn't like love, it is infatuation, which is he's attracted to like the idea of her and her beauty, but not actually her, because he himself bugs her about reading. And so clearly he doesn't love her enough to allow her to be herself. He just loves her because she's the most beautiful woman in the village. So that's all that matters to him. But even despite that, he still gets so jealous because of his ego and just how much he wants this perfect, beautiful life that he thinks he's entitled to, that he becomes so jealous when she loves the beast. I don't know what it is, but I just don't love the scene of Belle switching places with her father in the live action. There's just something about the animated film that feels so much more emotional than how it's portrayed in the live action. In the live action, it just feels very abrupt and rushed. Belle basically says, like, "Fine, I'll leave. Can I give my father a hug?" And then she like pushes him away and she steps into the dungeon cage, and that's kind of it. And I don't know, I felt that felt very rushed. And in the animated, you can see that Belle is very emotional, making the choice: do I stay? Do I let my father go free? Or do I just like do what he says and leave him here and I can go and, you know, have my own life, kind of a deal. She's very emotional making the choice. Although she loves her father and she ultimately makes the decision to let her father be free and she stays, you can see that she is still sad. She's giving up her freedom. She's giving up her life. Yes, it's for her father, but obviously it still makes her sad. And we just didn't get that emotion from her in the live action. It was very much just, "You go, I'll stay," kind of a deal. But in the animated, she takes a moment and she thinks and she's like, "Do I want to give up my life?" And she decides she will because she's a good person. But I do love that we do get that emotion from her, like that true emotion. Also, with that being said, after the beast returns to the dungeon, after he sends Maurice back to the village, you can see right away that he's sad too. Like, Bella's obviously, she starts crying and she's very upset over what happened. She lost her father and she didn't even get to say goodbye to him, which is a big deal for her. But you can right away see that the beast is also sad and almost looks like he regrets his decision to force her to do that. His face immediately falls and he is like, just like obviously right away upset that he hurt her. Where again, in the live action, he doesn't return to the dungeon and we don't see him and Belle interact again until a bit later in the film. And I just like that we got to see like instantly, like he was upset that he hurt Belle. My notes are out of order, so I'm trying to re-say them in order based on how they actually fall in the movie. This is one detail that my friend Leah pointed out to me. we were discussing this movie when we saw each other last November, because it's both of our favorite movie. So we were discussing like comparing the two, and she pointed out this moment to me, and I was like, that's a really good moment. I'm going to make note of this to talk about in my video. So thank you, Leah. So in the animated film, when Belle looks in the mirror and sees that her father is trying to find her and come after her, and he's dying, obviously like the Beast is worried for her father. And in the animated movie, he takes a second and he actually looks at the enchanted rose, sort of like indicating to the audience that he realizes his days are numbered. He may only have like hours left before the curse becomes permanent. And we see him look at the rose and even hesitate for a moment before he decides to let Belle go free and go save her father. In the live action, we don't get that moment of hesitation at all. Belle looks in the mirror and she sees not that her father is dying, but that the like mob is like going after Maurice because they think he's crazy. And without any hesitation or anything, the Beast is like, go get him. And I don't know, I can definitely see how some people may not think this is a big deal. They may actually think that the live action is better because, like, obviously, like, it shows that the Beast cares about her, that he, without any hesitation, is like, go to your father. But again, I liked this moment better in the animated, and again, thank you, Leah, for pointing this moment out to me, because it really showed that the Beast knew what was at stake, and he knew what was most likely, if not 100% going to happen if he released and freed Belle. The curse would become permanent. He would be a beast forever. But at the end of the day, all he wanted in that moment was for Belle to be happy and for Belle to be okay. And he probably knew that if he didn't let her go free at that moment, like realizing that her father was dying, she obviously would like never ever love him. But at that moment for him, it was, okay, I have this decision to make, because it's either I let her go free and I'm permanently a beast, or I make her stay and she probably still won't love me. It really showed that the Beast knew what was at stake when he made that decision, and he took a moment to really think about it. Something is at stake for him, like being a beast permanently. But he also loves Belle, and he realizes that he loves her so much. He doesn't even care at that moment if the curse is permanent. All he wants is for Belle to be happy, and she wants her and her father to be okay. So yeah, after discussing that moment with Leah, I agree. I think it's better in the animated. I think it's better that the Beast had a moment of hesitation and really like showed the audience that he knew what was going to happen if he let Belle go, and he just didn't care. And I even love the moment when he like runs his fingers through her hair one more time before she leaves. I just love that part so much. This was the one particular scene that I had to go back and rewatch in the animated, because I just think it's so much better in the animated, and that is the fight scene between the Beast and Gaston. In the live action, Gaston comes in and the Beast is fighting back, and he is putting up a fight, but not like a huge fight or anything, until he sees Belle, where in the animated, he puts up zero fight until he sees that Belle has returned, which just like really shows like how lost he feels losing this person that he has fallen so deeply in love with. He just doesn't care what happens to him. I kind of love all the mocking things that Gaston says to him, like, what's the matter, Beast? Too kind and gentle to fight back? And it's like, that's just showing like the comparison between the two, that at that moment, the Beast actually like doesn't care. He doesn't care because all he wanted was Belle, and he found this love. And then when she returns, we see like how powerful he actually is when he finally sees that she has returned there. We see how powerful he actually is. And I love Gaston's face when he like realizes, oh shit, like this guy is actually like really strong. And I just love that scene, and it was just very different in the live action. It wasn't quite so different, but it was still just too different, in my opinion, being someone who's obsessed with the animated one. Okay, I have two more that I'm going to go into detail about, and then we can move on from specific moments of this movie. Another scene is when the last rose petal is falling, and then after it falls, Belle proclaims her love. In the animated, not what happens. There's one petal left and it's dangling, but it's still there when Belle proclaims her love. But we as the audience think it may be too late because the beast has died from his injuries from Gaston. But it's still accurate to the curse. She proclaims that she loves him, and then the petal falls and then he is saved. All is well. I know in the live action they added the character of the enchantress and they actually made her a person in the movie. And some may argue that maybe the enchantress chose to give the beast a second chance, even though the petal fell and that was the stipulations of the curse. Some may argue oh, she maybe she just gave him a second chance when she saw how much Belle did love him and saw how much he loved Belle. She gave him a chance and she let him live. And some may like this change, and I just don't. I love the moment in the animated movie when Belle is crying over him and she finally tells him she loves him. I love that scene. I love it. She tells him she loves him, and then the last petal falls, as the curse should be. I'm not against that they added the enchantress as a character in the live action, but I'm also not for it. I don't know what the decision making was. I wasn't there. They didn't invite me to the table reading or anything like that. But I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I understand maybe the perspective of why they did that, but I just think it's better in the animated. The enchantress was just never there. This is a big one for me. Big one. This also goes into a lot of design of the movie and all this stuff. But anyway, the biggest thing, this was the biggest takeaway for me when I saw the live action in theaters. This was one of the very first things that I was like, why would they not add that? It was one line, technically two. There was two lines and they didn't add it, and it drove me bananas. And again, I'm sure most people don't care about this, but I do, because Beauty and the Beast is my favorite movie of all time. The Beast has his magical transforming moment. He turns from a beast back into a human, and it's all magical and it's all great. In the animated movie, after he transforms, he goes to Belle and he says, "Belle, it's me." And Belle kind of looks over him. She does all this stuff. And then it's not until she looks into his eyes that she realizes, yes, it is the prince, and she says, "It is you." And then they have their moment and they smooch. Those two lines were removed from the live action, and I don't understand why. It was two lines. Why could they not have said that? Because here's the thing, and I forget who I argued with someone about this. I argued with someone because they said that she knew it was him based on the portrait of him. Sure, possible, but it's actually because the Beast's design, he is made up of I think 6 different characters. I wrote it down. A lion's mane, a buffalo head, a gorilla's brow, a wolf's leg and tail, and a bear's body. So he is made up of all these different animals, but his eyes are completely human. His eyes never change. So sure, she looked at the portrait and saw him, but even when he was a beast, his eyes were human and his eyes were the same. So that's why I love this moment, because I love that he has his whole moment where he transforms and he's like, "Belle, it's me." And she has a moment of the frick just happened there, and she looks at him, and it's when she looks into his eyes, because they're the same as they were when he was a beast, she says, "It is you." I love that moment. And yes, we do get a moment in the live action of Emma Watson looking into Dan Stevens' eyes, and then they have their moment. But why could they not add just those two lines? "Belle, it's me. It is you." I don't know why. It is 2 little lines, and probably no one else in the entire world cares, but I do. I love that part so much. That was the first and the biggest thing for me when I walked out of the live action movie, that I was so disappointed that they did not add in, because like I said, it is 2 simple little lines. Why could they not have put them in? There are several other things in the live action I just did not like. I was not a giant fan of how the Beast gifts Belle the library. I thought it was a lot cuter in the animated where it was like a gift to her. I thought it was very cute that he like wanted to give her something. In the live action, I felt like it was more out of proving her wrong because they were having a debate back and forth about Romeo and Juliet. And so to like kind of like prove her wrong, he was like, there's better books in here. So I wasn't a fan of that. I liked how it was like actually like a gift for her. And I know people have like said their comments on like, well, it wasn't really like a gift kind of, but I don't care. Any book girly will agree with me that they would take that as a gift any day of the week. Some additions to the movie that I just was not a fan of. I really didn't like the whole side plot of the magic book and the Beast taking Belle to Paris. We did not need that. What was the point of that? None of that mattered to the story whatsoever. Like, I know that the animated has some plot holes. I discussed one earlier. And then there's the plot hole that the flower will bloom until his 21st birthday, but they've been in this curse for 10 years. So was he 11 years old when this curse happened? There's that plot hole. That was never really discussed in the live action, besides them saying like too long we've been rusting instead of 10 years we've been rusting. I don't think it was ever something anyone questioned or thought was a plot hole, that they were like, where's Belle's mom? Don't think that was ever a discussion, and so I don't know why that needed to be added in when they could have added in other things, like 2 lines in particular. I could have taken out that whole entire Paris and Belle's mom subplot, take that all out, and put in those 2 lines I wanted. That's all I care about. And one last thing, that this is probably a hot take for this movie, and you know what? I don't care. I hate that the end credit recording of Tale as Old as Time went to John Legend and Ariana Grande. I will never forgive Disney for doing that to me. How dare you take the love song from my favorite movie and give it to John Legend and Ariana Grande to sing? No. I don't care what anyone says. Despise that choice. It sucks because I obviously want the soundtrack on my phone, but I can't have that version. I can't. I have so many versions of Tale as Old as Time on my phone, but I will never have that version. Can't do it. Okay, so anyway, my overall thoughts. So I gave the live action obviously 10 out of 10. It's my favorite movie of all time, maybe even 15 out of 10. I love this movie. I realize it has plot holes. I don't care about them. Lots of movies have plot holes, and I don't care enough to care or anything. This is my favorite movie of all time. I love it. 10 out of 10. And then I gave the live action an 8 out of 10, which is still pretty good in comparison to other movies and even some other live action movies I've seen. It's still pretty good. I think that's still like one of the higher up there live actions for me. But it's just really hard for me to not nitpick the heck out of this movie, as you've heard me rant in this entire video, just because it is my favorite movie of all time. I'd be okay with a live action, like beat for beat for beat movie. There were some choices throughout this movie between casting and songs that I wasn't a fan of, but with that being said, there were also things that I really liked that they did in the live action. Even with casting, like I mentioned, I loved Josh Gad and I loved Luke Evans in this movie. I thought they were excellent. I thought Dan Stevens was amazing in this movie. There was just some choices and stuff throughout the live action that I just wasn't a big fan of. The extra side plots, adding in the Enchantress as her own character, not including 2 very small and simple lines, and then just little moments. Like I said, the fight scene between Gaston and the Beast. The moment of hesitation the Beast has in the animated movie before he frees Belle. The gifting of the library. Just little things like that that I just think are just significantly better in the animated. But again, I could just be saying this because I'm biased and it is my favorite movie of all time. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who don't give a shit that the Beast doesn't hesitate for a moment in the live action before freeing Belle. I'm sure there's people who don't even realize that that was changed, or even realize that there were 2 lines that were spoken between him transforming and their kiss. I bet there's people that don't even realize that they said anything. They probably just, oh yes, he transforms and they smooch and happily ever after. But no, there are 2 lines, and I love those 2 lines. I said from the very beginning of this video, I am going to nitpick the shit out of this movie because the animated is my favorite. I love it so much. It's been my favorite movie as long as I can remember. I mean, like, yes, I love Star Wars so much, but like, even just like right now, I'm looking at like my pin board because it's right here in front of me. And I have some Star Wars pins, but I have an entire lanyard of just Beauty and the Beast pins because it's my favorite movie. When I graduated from high school, I specifically chose a yellow dress because I wanted to look like Belle. It's my favorite movie ever. I love it with all my heart. And I love all the little moments of this movie. And so when something comes out that's a comparison of it, I'm going to nitpick the shit out of it. And that's just the way it is. With that all being said, that is my comparison of the live action Beauty and the Beast to the original animated one. I still liked the live action one. I would definitely rewatch it many times. It's still great. It's still, like I said, probably up there in terms of Disney live action remakes, but I just love the animated with all my heart. Nothing will ever compare. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, I would love it if you'd like and subscribe. I post new videos every single Friday, and I'd love to have you here. And tomorrow, I'm going to go watch Beauty and the Beast because it's the anniversary, and I hope you do too. Thank you. Bye, everybody.